veterans and their families. And I am honored to be what I understand is the first female veteran speaker. First, thank you. I guess I'm living proof that veterans come in all shapes and sizes and genders, because most of the time when people ask about being a veteran and I say something, they're like, oh, what branch of the service was your husband in? And I'm like, well, you know what, there is no husband, it was me. So there you go. I want to say a special thank you to all the veterans out there and to their families. I think we forget sometimes those families are serving right along with us. They are worrying about us. They're having to take care of everything at home. They're in times when we can't communicate, they don't know what's going on with us. They're sacrificing right along with the veterans, and I think it's always important to remember that. It's thrilling to see some World War II veterans here. We need to cherish them and make them know how much we appreciate them and learn from them. And I want to say a special thank you to all the Vietnam vets and their families. I have several friends who served in Vietnam, and they told me about when they got home being spit on, having things thrown at them, called names, being unable to go anywhere in their uniforms, and I think that is such a shame, and I hope that in some small way we can make up for that now. Well, I'm very proud to have served in the Army. It was certainly a learning experience for me. I was probably, if you could have voted in my law school class, the person most unlikely to go into the service. I'm sure I'd have been close to top of the list. But I learned so many important things from military service. I learned what it feels like to be a part of something that is so much bigger and so much greater and so much more important than an individual. I learned what it feels like to have a real mission and to accomplish that, to be part of a focused team. And I learned what real leadership looks like. A good leader can make all the difference in the world. A bad leader can do incalculable damage to a unit. When I got deployed to Iraq, it was something I certainly wasn't expecting. I was a public defender in DeKalb, as Sam said, and I'm sitting in my office one day, it was a Tuesday, and I'm going over cases with the prosecutor we had later in the week. We're like, this case is going to be a plea, this one wants a trial, I need your witness list, that sort of thing. And my phone rang and my secretary said, you need to take this call. So I picked up the phone, and it was the person who turned out to be my company commander. I'd never met him at that time, who said, you need to draw your gear and be at the armory on Friday. Well, it was Tuesday afternoon. He said, we're going to Iraq. And I'm like, this is a joke, right? He said, no, you need to get ready to go. And I'm like, well, I don't have any gear. I've got a laptop and a portable printer. And he goes, well, bring it with you. We'll get you the rest of the stuff. So I show up on Friday. We go down to Fort Stewart on Saturday, and that was the beginning of this adventure. I learned so much from being there. It sort of built on the things I learned in Germany. I learned how precious freedom is. What a wonderful gift we have that I think we tend to take for granted. We take for granted we can go where we want to go. If we want to move, we can do that. If we want to change jobs, we can do that. We can express ourselves and say what we think. We have freedom of the press. We have so many things, the right to vote, that people in other countries can only dream about. The right to education. Girls in Iraq, for the most part, are not educated. As little children, they appeared to be. They would be dressed in bright clothing, and they hit about 11 or 12, and on comes the black, and it seems like it stays put from there. We just have no idea the things we take for granted. Prior to deployment, we were given some short lessons in cultural things like don't put your boot up where people can see the soles of your feet. That's very insulting in that culture. As females, we were told, regardless of what our rank was, we needed to kind of hang back and let the guys lead the conversation and just follow along. And one thing I found very surprising was wherever we went, with all the stuff on and the vest and everything, it's hard to tell you're a female till you take your helmet off. So when we would be in a situation where I could take the helmet off, I would. And once people realized I was a female, everybody wanted to talk to me. I mean, it was really shocking to me. I had people who would want to bring me gifts. They would want me to meet their family. We went one day to the home of an influential leader in the community we were in, and he was having us in for tea in his living room. And he asked me if I would mind going in the kitchen. So I thought, well, this is it. I'm going to be back in the kitchen while all the guys are in the living room. And he said, no, I want you to go in the kitchen because my wife and my daughter want to meet you so badly. My daughter's a school teacher. She took the day off work so she could be here. So we met people there who really had suffered for many years under Saddam Hussein and who really longed for the kind of freedoms that we have and that we take for granted every single day. And it was really a humbling experience to see that. Before I went, I remember talking to my dad. He was in the Navy in the Korean War on a ship outside of Korea. And we were talking about, I didn't want to let people know. Now, mind you, when I deployed, I was in my early 40s, so I was old enough to be the mother of a lot of the young guys that were there. And I remember telling my dad how afraid I was of certain things. One of those was being captured, because we were hearing about the things they did to female prisoners. And I remember my dad telling me, he said, I'm not worried about all that other stuff. You're tough. And I know it, and you know it. He said, and whatever happens to you, he said, you get yourself home, and we will take care of it. And I've thought about that when I was thinking about what I wanted to say to you. And I think that's really the promise our government has made to veterans. We will take care of you. It's not something they're giving us. It's not just something we deserve, but it's something we have earned. For every bit of blood that's spilled, for every limb that's lost, for every traumatic brain injury, for every mental health concern, there should be treatment for that. And it should not be just adequate treatment. It should be the best, because we have earned the best. There's somewhere between 18 and 20 million veterans in the U.S. By contrast, only 18% of our Congress are veterans. So I think that explains why we're in such a mess with our medical treatment. We have people surviving wounds today thanks to innovations in battlefield medicine and what they can do in the forward deployed hospitals that are things they wouldn't have survived 10 or 15 years ago. But these are young people who are going to require a lifetime of significant medical care, and we owe it to them to make sure that they get it. Every year, over 6,000 veterans commit suicide, and in the last few years, several of them have done that at the VA hospitals. Again, I think we need to make it okay to tell people that you are not okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't think anybody expects you to go into a situation like that and come out unchanged. I know I certainly didn't. We also have over 40,000 veterans who are classified as homeless. That is a national shame. Homeless and veterans should never be used in the same sentence. We have an outdated and ineffective system of providing services for veterans, and we need to do something about that. We are a powerful voice. 18 to 20 million of us, plus family members, plus supporters, Imagine what we can do if we band together. And as I said, this is something that we're not being given. This is something that has been earned. And I think that we need to find that warrior in us that's still there, find that strong voice that is still there, and use that to demand that we get what we deserve. Thank you.